The Moonfield by Judith Allnatt. Narrated by Geraldine Sharrock. Prologue. The lid of the tin box is tight. You have to move from one corner to another, prising and pushing with your thumbs. Green paint peels from its edges as though time has been gnawing at it. Brown patches of rust have pockmarked its surface, but you can still make out the picture. A man and a woman in a rowing boat. Oars shipped. He with a fishing rod, she with a red parasol. The gentle slopes of tree-lined banks. The river calm, sun-dappled. Jacob & Co.'s water biscuits, reads the legend. As if the biscuits were meant only to be enjoyed when boating, conjuring lazy sun-filled days suspended in the lap of the water, with time to drift, to float. The lid comes loose with a faint gasp of released air. Inside are papers and objects loosely packed. There is a bundle of letters. The expensive blue writing paper tied, oddly, with a bootlace. A pack of Lloyd's cigarettes has a faint smell of tobacco, and an even fainter trace of roses. There are photographs, stiffly posed family portraits of men and women in high collars, a girl playing tennis, one hand bundling the encumbrance of her long skirts aside as she reaches for her shot, hand-tinted postcards of lakeside views. The heavier objects have found their way to the bottom. An amber heart, a pocket watch, a set of keys, and an ivory dance card holder with a tiny ebony pencil. Lifted, each one fits your hand, makes a hieroglyph. The shape of the past against your palm. This was real. I was there, they say, as you feel their weight and smoothness. Beneath them, lining the tin, is the stiff paper of a watercolour painting, slightly foxed and with its edges curling a little, but still with its landscape greens and blues, the texture of the paper showing through the brushstrokes of some unknown hand. Part 1. First Post. Chapter 1. Watercolour. Today would be the day. George touched the bulky package in the breast pocket of his postman's uniform as if to check, one more time, that it was there. His best watercolour was pressed between the pages of his sketchbook to keep it flat and pristine, as a gift should be. He felt his heart beating against the board back of the book. All morning it had been beating out the seconds, the minutes, and the hours between his decision and the act. Today, when he went on the last leg of his rounds, he would present Violet with the painting over which he had laboured. "As a token of my esteem," he would say. For even to himself he dared not to use the word love. In the sorting room, at the back of the post office, he greeted the others, hung his empty bag on its hooks at the sorting table so that it sagged open, ready to be filled, and leant against the wall to take a few moments' rest. The late morning sun slanted down through the high windows, alive with paper dust that rose from the table. A vast horse trough affair with shuttered sides. Kitty and her mother, Mrs. Ashwell, their sleeves rolled up, picked at the choppy waves of letters, their pale arms and poised fingers moving as precisely as swans dipping to feed. Every handful of mail, white, cream, and Bill Brown, was shuffled quickly into the pigeonholes that covered the rear wall, each neatly labelled street by street. "I see Mrs. Verney's Christopher has a birthday," Kitty said, as she pressed a handful of envelopes into 20 to 50 Helvellyn Street. "He's reached his majority," Mrs. Ashwell said. "Let's hope he's soon home to enjoy it." Mr. Ashwell, the postmaster, came in carrying a sack of mail over his shoulder. He nudged George and thrust the sack into his arms. "Dreaming again, George," he said. "You left this one by the counter right where I could trip over it." "Sorry, sir," George said quickly. Mr. Ashwell made some show of dusting off his front and pulling his waistcoat down straight. "Concentration, young man," he said, giving
Sample complete. Ready to continue?